Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Phoenix Fire Department, for making this facility available to us this morning. Thank you all for being here with us to help recognize the importance of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. When MAG, Domestic Violence Council, was first formed in 1999, it was the largest coordinating body in the country to be focused specifically on domestic violence. Today, 17 years later, we are still leading the country through innovations. Innovations such as the region's protocol model, research-based risk assessments, and continued data-driven best practice education. I would like to thank my colleagues who are all back in there for all their knowledge and expertise and the efforts that they've made for this cause, as well as all the staff members who have been here to guide us on the road through. My name is Robin Barker. I represent Apache Junction as Vice Mayor. That's in the far East Valley. So we're having this conference here in Phoenix. And we might ask, why? Because domestic violence is not confined to any one community or region. It affects every city, every town, no matter what the demographics, the size, or the location. Domestic violence can happen to anyone, anywhere. Significant changes can begin with just a few champions who are determined to make a difference. You are all here because you're committed to being one of those champions to make that difference. Thank you for the lives you touch and save every day. And now it is my pleasure to welcome yet another champion, a man who is committed to making a difference and to ending domestic violence. Mayor Greg Stanton, Chair of the Maricopa Association of Governments Regional Council.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor Barker. Your leadership as chair of our Regional Domestic Violence Council makes a huge difference, making sure that all of the elected officials and law enforcement across this region are working as partners to end domestic violence in our community. And we can do it if we adopt best practices and work closely together. That is our goal. That's why we are here for our annual Domestic Violence Awareness Month press conferences. We've made some advances, but we all know there is so much more work to do. The MAG Regional Council, we are firmly dedicated to stopping domestic violence. And to show our support, MAG, just this past week, passed an important resolution recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month across our region. It is so vital that we raise awareness about domestic violence because domestic violence impacts so many people in our community. Tragically, 1 in 4 women are victims of domestic violence. 1 in 7 men are victims of domestic violence. And as the Vice Mayor said, it's not limited to any one population. Victims of domestic violence are not a homogeneous group. They represent all races, religions, nationalities, income levels. It affects everyone. It affects every business in this community. Certainly it affects law enforcement. I went on a ride-along just last week in Maryville, in the western part of Phoenix, and I just heard the radio call after call after call the entire time I was out. So many domestic violence cases, the most dangerous cases for our police officers to encounter out on the street. Now, we've experienced some advancements in technology, but we are unfortunately contending with new methods and tools for harassment and abuse. Because as we've learned and studied more about domestic violence, we know it's not just physical abuse, it's also online and emotional abuse. 1 in 4 teenagers has been harassed or abused online via text message or through other forms of technology. And that type of domestic violence can be as devastating to their lives as any other form of domestic violence. And 52% of those teenagers who experience electronic abuse are also abused physically. It affects everyone. I see Marvin Rochelle back there. He's a regular leader in this community on transportation issue, and he shared a very powerful story this past week at our MAG Regional Council about his own daughter being a victim of domestic violence. Marvin, we stand with you, and we're so sorry to hear about that. Thank you for sharing your personal and courageous story. Advances in technology make behaviors like hacking, stalking, and tracking easier for an abuser. So it's so critically important for potential victims to become more aware about how they can protect themselves from technology-enabled abuse and harassment. So MAG, the organization that Vice Mayor Barker chairs, the Regional Council, Domestic Violence Council, has put together a very important list of tips to prevent hacking, stalking, and tracking. And they're available on the MAG website or in your press kits to share. Please distribute these widely, because there are things that people can do, particularly young people, teenagers can do, to prevent online harassment and abuse. A little later, we'll hear more about recent changes to the law that give more tools to fight back against abusive behavior with technology, texting, and social media. So I'm blessed to serve as chair of the MAG Regional Council, and I want to recognize and give thanks to the important work that Vice Mayor, you and your whole team does at the MAG Regional Domestic Violence Council in our region that benefits everyone, including the city of Phoenix. This is what regional leadership and cooperation looks like. This council has brought together elected officials, healthcare professionals, prosecutors, police, service providers, private funders to effectively address and prevent one of the most serious problems that our community faces: domestic violence. So now, putting my mayor hat back on for a moment, I'm very proud that Phoenix has continued to be a leader on the issue of domestic violence protection and awareness throughout my time in office. Phoenix initiated the Paint Phoenix Purple campaign 4 years ago. That's why you see myself and everyone here wearing purple. You're going to see people throughout our city wearing purple, because awareness is important. Awareness starts conversation. Awareness is what begins when someone gets that toolkit that I talked about that's on the MAG website. Awareness is important in this community. Phoenix initiated the Paint Phoenix Purple campaign. Other cities have joined in across the county. Maricopa County's joined in. Our governor has joined in. They're going to paint the state capitol purple as well. Tonight, we will kick off our 2016 campaign, and we're going to light Phoenix City Hall purple, as well as other city facilities, all to raise awareness on the tragic issue of domestic violence. So I encourage everyone to take part and show your support, especially on October 20th, which is National Wear Purple Day. But most importantly, if you, a family member, a loved one, a work colleague, anyone you may know might be experiencing domestic violence, please call the Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. Say it again, 1-800-799-7233. Together, working together, government, law enforcement, businesses, the private sector, advocates, victims of abuse who have come forward to show leadership for others, working together, we can end domestic violence in our region. And it's now my great honor to introduce the Vice Chair of the Regional Domestic Violence Council. She's a valued partner in addressing domestic violence in our region, and I work with her every single day at Phoenix City Hall, and that's our Phoenix Councilwoman, Felda Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Phoenix has long been a leader in domestic violence prevention. And as the new chair of the MAG Regional Domestic Violence Council, I really am excited to be in this position, because I believe very strongly it takes all of us. It takes government, it takes citizens, it takes service providers to raise the awareness, provide the services, and importantly, stop the generational continuation of domestic violence. Data shows that children raised in domestic violent homes are much more likely to continue that practice when they become adults. And I'm very proud of the city of Phoenix. 5 years ago, we put a 50-member council task force together and to address how the city could begin to really tackle domestic violence prevention and service. And this committee worked very hard. They come up with 5 pillars. We are now in the 4th year of implementation, and we have made some real progress. We have established a centralized screening contact hotline to help screen victims, find appropriate placement, and ensure their safety. We have implemented an order of protection project which removes victims from harm's way as the orders of protection were served, which was hugely problematic and dangerous. And we've developed very strong partnership with high school districts, a resource that focuses on teen dating and healthy relationships, which goes to one of my priorities in life, is the fact that we're teaching the young people how to identify what domestic violence is, what's appropriate family relations, and how to protect themselves from cyber violence, the bullies in the world that continue to grow up to be the men that commit the control issues to endanger entire families. I don't think there's a family, probably in America, that hasn't had a domestic violence incident. But all too often, we don't know where to go or what to do. And so I think it is extremely important that we continue to raise awareness. We have 22 advocate positions in fire, prosecutors, and human services department that focus on domestic violence. We received a VOCA grant for $2.2 million to assist the victims. We're establishing a domestic violence court in the city of Phoenix that will keep all the survivors' related proceedings in one place. And we are exploring the possibility to identify housing vouchers for domestic violence victims, because all too often they have no place to go and they are caught in this cycle. And if we can help them find a safe new place to live, it will change their lives forever. Together we work very closely with MAG and the other cities in hoping to end domestic violence. It is a real pleasure and honor to be on this committee. It has been a real honor as a council person to work with staff who have taken this to heart. You will notice all the purple shirts, not just today, but every day at City Hall, because they believe and they are making a difference. But it's not just the city of Phoenix, it's all of us working together. So it is my pleasure to introduce Ariel Serafin, the Deputy County Attorney, who is a major champion in supporting the passage of House Bill 2419 to put more teeth into stalking legislation involving technology. Please welcome her.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's important to keep in mind that there are some various tips that victims of domestic violence or those individuals who believe that they may be the victim of a stalking, hacking, or tracking type of offense can use to enhance their safety. First of all, turn off GPS capabilities on your cellular phone, your iPad, your camera, or any other electronic device, and consider doing the same if your children have those types of devices. If you believe that your computer may be infected with spyware, use a safe device, like a device at your workplace or at a library, to complete safety planning until a point when you are able to have your computer checked out. Be wary of any technology, including toys or games, brought home by children. These days, it is possible for these types of devices to be hacked, or alternatively, for them to contain GPS tracking devices or audio or video recording capabilities. And finally, record any calls, voice messages, text messages, emails, or any other types of communications that you receive from your abuser or your abuser's friends or family members. This type of information is critical to effective prosecution. I direct your attention to the table to my right. On that table is a variety of just examples of the types of devices that can be used in electronic stalking and electronic harassment and tracking cases. We'd invite you to take a look at those devices at the conclusion of this event. I also think it's important for the public and for victims to be aware that there have been some very significant changes to Arizona's stalking statute, which went into effect just in August of this year. It has been dramatically expanded in a way that will allow for more effective prosecution of these types of cases. First, previously, the stalking statute only applied in situations where a victim was caused to fear for either his or herself or for the victim's family member, which does include a person who lives or previously lived with the victim. Under the new statute, that's been expanded, and stalking can also occur if the conduct causes the victim to fear for the safety of the victim's pet or for a former or current romantic or sexual partner. Additionally, previously, the stalking statute only applied in a situation where the victim feared for his or her safety or death, or for the safety or death of a specified other person. Under the new law, stalking can be prosecuted if it involves causing the victim to fear damage or destruction to his or her property, injury or death to a pet, or if it causes the victim to suffer from emotional distress. And finally, the definition of the type of conduct that qualifies as stalking conduct has been expanded as well, and perhaps that's most relevant to the topic that we're talking about today. Now, not only are threats, maintaining visual or physical proximity to a victim, or conducting electronic or GPS surveillance of a victim stalking conduct, but it's also considered potential stalking conduct under the law if an individual directs communication of images or language at the victim without authorization and with no legitimate purpose. This expanded law will allow us to address those situations where an individual repeatedly directs vulgar, harassing, or otherwise disturbing communications at a victim, which unfortunately is a fact pattern that we see all too frequently. But in order to truly understand the devastating impacts of these types of offenses, we'd introduce to you today Rhiannon. That is not her real name. It has been changed in order to protect her safety and her privacy. Although her case is likely not related to any sort of intimate partner violence, she has been electronically stalked for the past 7 years. This goes to show the severe impact and the chaos that these types of offenses can cause in a victim's life. We thank her very much for her courage and for being here today to share her story. Thank you, Rhiannon.
When we think about violence, we think about the physical. We think of all the tragic gun deaths that seem to occur more and more often every day. We think of terrorism, and we think of somebody putting hands on a partner that they're supposed to love. What doesn't immediately come to mind when we think of the word violence is the internet. However, the further that we move into a digital age, the more violence that we find there. Social media is the new frontier of violence, and it is often invisible. When people are online, they feel anonymous. They don't have to look someone in the eye, and so they say awful or ugly things that they might never say to somebody in person. People feel as though the lives of others are now part of their own domain, and they can do with them whatever they wish. Social media can be used to pretend to be someone else in order to extort someone, in order to stalk someone, or in order to bully someone. Regardless of whether the perpetrator is known to the victim or whether they are unknown, the tactics that are used are all the same. 7 years ago, I had a career in public speaking, and I was booked at different events around the country. It was something I really enjoyed doing, and I was very passionate about, and it's something that was taken away from me by an unknown individual. For 7 years now, this person has followed me. He has created literally thousands of fake profiles with which to harass me, a new one every 2 or 3 days for the past 7 years. He has a website with over 800 photos of me, some of which I've never even seen before. He has photoshopped my face onto pornographic images. He has written stories that fantasize about me being raped, and he has made over 16,000 posts to a forum about me. He has used Facebook to send messages to almost everyone I've ever met, and including people who are just friends of friends, who he's followed the social network out from there. He is always looking for information about me, and he hasn't stopped or let up in 7 years. There have been direct threats made, as well as an escalation from an infatuation to more of an anger toward me at this point. Based on the sheer amount of content that he has posted to the internet, this is equivalent to a full-time job for this person. The impacts of online violence aren't something you can see. If somebody gets shot, you see the wound and you see the blood. But with online violence, the scars are on the person's soul. In my situation, I have to wonder if every single person I come into contact with might be my stalker. He has made statements indicating that he would try to meet me because I would never know. It keeps me from wanting to leave the house sometimes. I have lost almost all of my friends and social support as a result of his constant messages to them. People are tired of hearing me talk about the situation, or they think that I'm making a bigger deal out of it than it is, or they sympathize to the best of their ability, but ultimately they can't really understand why I feel scared. You do feel fear, and you feel alone. The smallest tasks become equivalent to moving a mountain. You spend entire days sitting on the couch, anxiety running through your veins, too paralyzed to move or to get anything done. I can't even describe what I have as post-traumatic stress disorder because the trauma is still ongoing. I know that none of this is my fault, but he has twisted and warped my entire life into a grotesque caricature of itself. Every thoughtless selfie that I've uploaded to the internet has been turned into an instrument of his twisted infatuation. Victims of this type of crime have no idea who to turn to. They're afraid that if they say something, the harassment might increase or get worse. They're afraid no one will believe them or no one will understand the fundamental impact it has. And they feel as though the situation is hopeless and no one is committed to stopping it. It's been said many times that it's dangerous to be a woman on the internet. I have seen post after post by my female friends on Facebook regarding dating sites, or even on Facebook, if someone approaches them, and even if they politely decline that person's interest, somehow that person then feels empowered to threaten them with rape, call them ugly or fat, or say the most abhorrent racist remarks. This has happened at least once to almost every female I know. If you think that you don't know a woman who has had this type of experience, start asking around, and I promise that you will find that this has impacted almost all women by now. The impact runs deep into a person's psyche. Many lose their lives to online violence, either by the perpetrator's hand or by their own when they feel that it's all too much. The internet is not going away, and this type of violence is only going to increase if we don't get ahead of this problem right now. It pains me to think of the lives that will be lost in the meantime as we try to make our voices heard and as we try to catch up legislation to the crimes that are being committed. Crimes such as domestic violence or stalking are intended to silence the victim. My stalker likes to brag that he has ruined my life, kept me from getting jobs, and derailed the career that I once had. That's why I want him to see me fighting back. This is my modern alchemy, turning the lead of the ugliness that this person has handed to me into the gold of providing hope and light to this issue for other people who are experiencing it. That is why I will continue to fight back for justice, even if I'm still fighting at 95 years old. This will end for me and for others. We have to work together, and we have to stand together. If we all educate each other, and if parents educate their children about how to interact online and what is okay to say and what is not okay to say, we can end this. I will not be silenced, and I hope that others in my situation also refuse to be silenced. I also want anyone who is experiencing this to know that they are not alone. I think that there is hope, and I think that takes the form of standing up to this type of harassment every time you see it. If you receive a harassing message online from someone for the first time, before you block and delete that person, say something first. Educate them that this behavior is not okay. If the behavior continues, speak up, make your voice heard, and contact law enforcement. This is how you become the change. And for every person who becomes the change, the entire nature of the situation will change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhiannon, for sharing your story. I am in awe of your strength and your courage. You have definitely put a new facet on an extremely ugly crime. Thank you so much. And also, I'd like to take a moment to thank the Governor's Office for the STOP grant funding that the Domestic Violence Council has received. That funding is providing the funding for today's event, as well as allowing us to focus our efforts to stop domestic violence across the region. And now at this time, I would like to invite all of you to go outside for a demonstration of the location and removal of a GPS tracking device. This is something I've been waiting to see all week. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Troy Finley. I'm a lieutenant with Phoenix Police Department. Here to assist me is Sergeant Ashley Orn. We work in the Family Investigations Unit, which actually investigates domestic violence and missing person cases. Today I want to give you a brief demonstration of some different technology items that people are using to stalk and track people. Ashley's going to start out with some of the items that can be in your home or your children's bedroom, anywhere in the residence.
Good morning. Our main thing we want you to take from this presentation is anytime there's any concern at all that you might be followed by someone, you might be being recorded on your cell phone or tracked in your vehicle, the first thing you do is call the police. Don't hesitate, because when we hesitate, something bad might happen, and we want to prevent that. As a department, we want to be proactive in preventing crime and not there to help you after the fact. We want to be there to prevent it. So some things in the home. The main thing, one of the newest is, I'm sure you've all seen this on TV, stuffed animals. Cameras can be placed behind the eyes, in the mouth, especially the electronic ones that do voices when you press the paw or anything on the hand. They already have electronic components inside. That makes it easier to access for a camera. So anything, if children come home from a parent's house or a grandparent's with a stuffed animal, you might want to check it out if you feel that anything is odd going on with that. Also, AC adapters, any type of plug-in for any electronic or rechargeable toy, kitchen electric, can have a pinhole camera in the words. They're very, very small. The guy at the spy shop that I talked to before this told me the only people that notice things like this are people that clean houses, because they pay that much attention to detail. So just be aware of anything that doesn't look right, or, hey, here's a new charger I got you. Something that just makes the hair on your neck stand up, you should have checked out. Lieutenant Finley's going to talk about some vehicle things. And these are all props, by the way. These aren't actual cameras that we're showing you. They're example ones that we use for training. So here's Lieutenant Finley.
I just want to touch upon one other thing what Ashley mentioned was child's toys. A lot of children get attached to one toy. Sometimes they're separated families, and this toy goes back and forth between different homes. Might be a good idea to check, because sometimes a child's inseparable from that toy, and there might be an item in there, and you might need to look. And most of the time, there's a camera that's in the eye area. I wanted to touch on the cars briefly. There's lots of places to hide things in the car. Right now, with your local online retailers, you can find some interesting devices, and some I didn't even know, getting some information for this presentation. But this is a simple, cigarette lighter battery charger for your phone. They have a device now that's implanted in these. You could give it to somebody, and they can actually track you. And I want to say it's about a $30 part. It's very cheap, and it still charges your phone, so the person that receives it doesn't even know. So that's something to keep in mind. There's some items that can be hardwired into a car. If you suspect that there's someone that might be, you're finding somebody too often, maybe they're stalking you, or you keep running into somebody that you didn't want to see, you might want to take your car to a mechanic and have it checked. There's some items that can be hardwired into the car that I can't help you. You're going to have the car checked out. There's also some easier ways you can find if you suspect that there might be something going on. These are magnetic. And you remember the old hide a key? There isn't a lot of metal left on new cars today, but a lot of times you put these under the bumper or on the frame of the car, they'll stick in here, and you need to look. When you get your oil change, you could ask your mechanic to put the car in the rack and look under there, and they have devices that can help you assist with finding something that's emitting a signal. So you could do that. That's one option to find, and these are very simple and very cheap. There's also GPS trackers that are about the size of a watch battery, and they can drop them into any box or anywhere. It could be anywhere in your car. Truckers use them for tracking expensive loads to find out where their cargo is at. What else? Am I missing anything else? The best thing to do probably though, if you suspect something, is to put the car in a rack at a dealer or at the garage and just check underneath. One other thing I'll touch upon, we've had a few cases where there were actual cameras put inside the vents. That's another thing, sometimes in rear view mirrors. All kinds of places to hide your vehicle. If someone's borrowed your vehicle or you think maybe an ex got it for a while, you might want to have it checked. That's another idea that you might want to think about. But the biggest thing is if you suspect something, if you find something, call the police. We will take a report and we'll look into it. That's the biggest thing, and we'll help you the best we can. We're not really equipped to jack up cars and check them, but if you find one of these items and you didn't put it there, we'll surely look into it and investigate.